Welcome, I'm Paul, this is Dave. This is my channel's weekly compilation, ending Monday, May 13th, 2024. Enjoy. Case file number 1611, written by Marnet. The London Step Through Spacetime. This happened while me and my dad were looking for a parking spot at a train station in London. We couldn't find any spaces and were just driving around in circles. Eventually, someone came out of the train station and walked towards a car. He looked up for a quick second, and we made eye contact. We drove around again, and we saw him standing in the middle of the parking lot. And then he was suddenly gone. He didn't get into any car, and there was nowhere he could have gone. Even if he had run or walked away, we would have seen him. My dad got out of the car as he was confused that the person just vanished. He walked to where the person was standing and looked around the area, but he just wasn't there. In the blink of an eye, he just vanished. My dad even said to me, "Please tell me you saw him too." So I'm not the only one who just saw him vanish. In the blink of an eye, he was just gone. Case file number 1612, written by Annie Lou 2, my border collie, a veritable Houdini. Today, I may have experienced a glitch in the matrix while walking my dogs. One of my dogs, a border collie, sometimes pulls on her walks. Because of this, she's always walking in a harness. It goes over her head, wraps under her chest, and clips closed on both sides of her body behind her front legs. It fits very snugly on her. My border collie is walking on a 6-foot leash, attached to the harness. There is no way she can easily come out of the harness when she pulls or when standing still. The only way it may be possible for her to get out of it is if she backs away from you, while she is looking at you with significant force. And at the time when you put the leash towards yourself, i.e. like playing tug-of-war with your dog, in this extreme case the harness could potentially pull over her head. Anyway, today it was raining lightly. No other people or dogs were around. Both of my dogs were relaxed, sniffing along a fence after walking for about 1.5 kilometers. As I said, she was relaxed. The leash was slack, and she was about 4 feet from me. When she finished sniffing a particular spot, she turned around 90 degrees towards me and popped the harness on the ground next to her. It was all clipped together and still in the shape of her body. The only difference was that she was not in the harness. I was not talking on my phone or looking at the screen or daydreaming. I was just looking at the dogs to make sure they didn't pick up and eat any crap off the ground, as my dog sometimes does. It was like I blinked and she was out of the harness. I'm not a big Matrix believer, but thinking back on this event, the blink I experienced just before she popped out of the harness seemed to be more significant than a typical eye blink that lasts a microsecond. It was not a long blink, but for some reason my brain keeps thinking back to that blink, which seemed different. I keep wanting to describe it as a thicker and darker blink. Hard to understand and explain. Anyway, do you think this could be a glitch in the Matrix, or am I just losing my mind? Case file number 1613, written by Calculating Coyote, about my sister's soul. In 2020, me and my family moved into the house we live in today. It's a Victorian house and is fairly large, and for 6 months straight, we kept seeing my younger sister all over the house when she wasn't home. It started with my dad seeing her in her room with her legs dangling off her bed, but when he turned to ask her why she wasn't at work, she disappeared. Then on 2 separate occasions, I saw my sister walk past my studio door and go downstairs when, again, she wasn't even home. 4 months into our move, my mom was washing dishes and my sister walked past her. And when my mom asked something, my sister even replied, and mom watched her walk out into the garden only to find out she had been out all day with her friends. The weirdest experience, however, that we always talk about was when I was in my room and got a call from my parents to ask her what she wanted from the takeaway. So I come out to see her standing halfway up the stairs. I ask her what she wants from takeaway, and she doesn't even reply. So I ask again, and that's when she does reply, but behind me, from her bedroom. So I'm frozen, staring at this person looking up at me on the stairs, and I say, "Sister's name? Are you in your bedroom?" "Yeah, why?" And I just slowly walk backwards into her bedroom whilst keeping an eye on the person on the stairs, who now is slowly fading. I close the door and my sister sees I'm freaked out, and when we open the door again, nobody's there. It happened at twilight, so I like to think it was just the fading sun playing tricks on me. But honestly, I remember looking at them so clearly and seeing detail on their face. I even remember how they stopped moving and stood still when I talked to them. The memory still makes me feel on edge when I pass that area. Nothing has happened for almost 4 years though. and it's the only odd experience I've had with paranormal stuff. Still, I yearn for some kind of explanation or to know others have experienced the same thing. Hey you, yes you. Did you know I have a Patreon? Super quick rundown. I have $1 tier you can just support to support me. Appreciate it. $5 a month for horror story narrations, and $10 a month for my uncut reactions to shows I've never seen before. There's a 7-day free trial. Head on over, check it out, see if you like it. Now back to the stories. Case file number 1614, written by Mac's wife. I know the future. I know death. I occasionally get flashes or visions of things that happen again later. Recently, I had a specific conversation at work. This was not a normal or routine conversation like, did we get any mail? It was an unusual circumstance that led up to it, so I knew how it was going to go down, and it did exactly that way. On the creepy end of the spectrum, I saw myself at a friend's funeral while he was still alive. He died unexpectedly a few weeks later. I knew that a client of mine would die within a year, and he did. At the time, he appeared perfectly healthy, but within the year he was diagnosed with cancer and passed away. I know that one cloudy morning, I will get the call in my car that my stepfather has passed away. He's in his 70s and suffers from Parkinson's, so this one isn't that paranormal, I don't think. The creepiest one has yet to be fulfilled, and that is an image I have of a blue pickup truck on the wrong side of the road, coming straight at me. Case file number 1615, written by Makes Kid Skill, the freckle that collapsed my mind. My wife has a freckle on the palm of her hand. It was under her left thumb, about the size of a pea. I love that freckle. Would kiss it, name it, joke around about it. We've been together 20 years. We got married when we were 21, back in 1994. About 2 months ago, I was looking at her hands and her freckle was gone. What happened to your freckle? What freckle? I get a little freaked out and say the one you've always had on the palm of your hand. I grab her hand and look closely, and there's a faded scar where the freckle was. She tells me she had a freckle there and that she had it removed about a year before she met me. She said it popped up really quickly and it freaked her and her mom out because it appeared so fast, and they had it removed and tested for melanoma, negative. I remember that freaking freckle. I remember kissing it and touching it when I would hold her hand. Like I said, this happened 2 months ago and I cannot shake the feeling that somehow my consciousness slipped sideways into a very, very similar universe to the one I started out in. But I feel like the people around me aren't really the people I used to know. It's very disconcerting. And if I didn't have really awesome compartmentalization skills, I could see this really driving me crazy in short order. Case file number 1616, written by Glitter Rage, the girl with 2 names. Last year, I volunteered at a day camp. One of the volunteers there in the first week was a woman a little older than me named Leah. The first day I met her, I knew it'd be easy to remember because she actually had the same accent and a similar look to someone I knew before named Leah. We wore name tags every day. I spent the second day sitting across from her at a table. I know her name was Leah. There was another girl my age called Ellie. She didn't volunteer much in the first week. She looked very different from Leah. I didn't interact with her as much as I did with Leah, but I knew who she was and what she looked like. Remember, we all had name tags, it was easy. Day 1 of the second week, Leah is working, Ellie is not. The director says something to Leah, but calls her Ellie. I thought to myself how embarrassing that was for the director, but Leah did not correct her, and then I hear it again. And the next time I work face to face with Leah, her name tag says Ellie. I'm telling you, for the next 3 weeks of camp, Leah and Ellie, I never saw Ellie again. But there was Leah in Ellie's name tag, with no one else noticing the change. The Leah name tag stayed in our name tag bin, and there was never a Leah again. People dismiss this, and it sounds ridiculous. The very obvious answer is me mistaking the woman's name that first week because I associated her with someone else I knew. But I know Ellie was Leah that first week. We wore our name tags all the time. If I saw her wearing it, I would have noticed the mistake. I interacted with her face to face, name tags out. It is the only time I've ever really felt this feeling of there being a glitch, which I was the only one aware of. I'm sure that woman changed names. Case file number 1617, written by Your Safe Word is Harder. My entire lifetime was fake. Many years ago, I woke up after what was easily the most vivid and detailed dream I'd ever had. In this dream, my life had simply gone on and on. I got married, moved, changed jobs, had a house, kids, etc. Nothing out of the ordinary. Then suddenly, I woke up and I was back in my small Boston apartment lying next to my girlfriend. And it was like a large part of my life had never happened. The closest way I can describe it would be the feeling you'd get if you woke up one morning and found yourself wherever you were 15 or 20 years ago. Everyone you'd ever met in those years never existed. Every life achievement you'd had was a lie. Every memory was false, and your entire life had been instantly rewound back to a random moment many years in your past. I was so shocked and traumatized by this that I remember waking up and sobbing uncontrollably for hours, like I was grieving for the death of all my family, which in a way I was. The unexplainably bizarre part to me was how mundane the dream was. Nothing dreamlike or surreal happened. It felt absolutely like real life. The only difference was the timescale. In this dream, the time elapsed was easily at least 15 or 20 years. To this day, I can still recall bits and pieces of the dream, including vague memories of my family's face, and I can start to feel like crying again. And sometimes I can also start to get emotional at the thought that someday I may not remember anything of the dream and all those people and life memories will be gone forever. I'd never had anything like that happen before nor since. But it's still one of the most deeply scarring events that's ever happened to me, and one that I have yet to explain or understand. Case file number 1618, written by Life is Bizarre. The Matrix Ignited. Back in 1997, I had a dream that I was sitting on the school bus heading to school as usual. But there was a general tension in the air that was not normally there. Talks with China had deteriorated further in the night, and everyone was scared things had gone too far. As we drove, there was an emergency broadcast over the radio. It had happened. They had launched the bombs and we were retaliating. The bus driver slowed and started to weave across the road as we looked in horror at the horizon, at the distant trails of the missiles streaked across the sky, followed by a blinding flash, a roar of oncoming flame, and suddenly waking up, screaming in a dark, unfamiliar environment surrounded by similar screams. I looked around at rows and rows of unfamiliar metal beds with hundreds, if not thousands of people wired into machinery and feeling completely disoriented. A man dressed in an olive green uniform was running down the hall towards me and stopped, out of breath, puffing in front of me. "What the hell happened there?" he asked, looking around in shock at everyone, the majority of which were still screaming. I managed to choke out, "Global nuclear war. Everyone is dead." Christ, they warned us this might happen. Bloody programmers. A little too close to home, right, sir? No wonder everyone is so worked up. Give me a few moments, okay? He started to talk into a small walkie-talkie-like device on his wrist. As he did so, I had a fleeting memory pass before my eyes. The year was 27-something. There were 40,000 people on board to somewhere else. We couldn't go home. It was unbelievable. I looked down on my hands and they were older than they should have been. Do we have long to go? How's the ship doing?" I stammered out. "I don't remember, sir. It'll make it harder to go back under." Then with a small smile, "But it's good to see you. They reckon they still have another 20 years or so, but we are having a good time." The walkie crackled into life, and the man nodded. "Okay, they've changed the simulation. We're going to do a mass restart." The screaming started to fade out almost immediately. "We are taking you back to the start of the day. Don't worry, it's just going to be a bad dream. Stay sane in there, okay?" And suddenly, I'm awake in my bed. No war, no nukes, everything proceeded as normal. Watching The Matrix a few years later, and that dream suddenly resurfaces. When he woke up and looked around, I had chills. Case file number 1619, written by 888 miles per hour. The Cafe Triplets. First, let me explain that I'm Portuguese, and in Portuguese, while trimegio means triplet, and quadrumegio means quadruplet, and so on, Gemeo can mean both twin and be a catch-all term to mean any number of siblings from a multiple birth. So the discussion my friend and I had with our friend may sound awkward in English, but it made perfect sense in Portuguese. Some 12 years ago, I was in college. It was a hot, sunny day, and I was hanging out with some friends in a cafe on campus. It was a big group, so some were chatting and others were studying. I was people watching. Suddenly, a girl with long brown hair runs by, wearing bootcut jeans, a large brown belt, and a white peasant shirt. I'll never forget those clothes. Seconds later, a girl looking exactly like her, with the same hair and the exact same clothes, runs in the same direction. Moments later, a third girl, once again the mirror image of the first two, and wearing the same ensemble, runs by following them. I turn to my friends to see if anyone notices, and sure enough, my friend A is staring at the place the girls had passed by, jaw slack, and his eyes almost jumping out of their sockets. "Did you see that?" I ask. A nods. We turn to the main building, where the girls had run into, and see our friend M chatting with one of the girls. She bids him farewell, and we run up to him to figure out who the hell she was. Apparently, she was an old childhood friend of M. "Is she a twin?" A asks, placing the question I was dreading to know the answer to. "Yeah," M says, laughing. "Why? Did you see them together?" We start laughing too, relieved. Of course there had to be a logical explanation for it. I thought we were hallucinating, I say, and M nods, understanding. "Yeah, it's silly that they still dress the same even when adults. Their parents must have started the trend. It's silly, isn't it? It's acting like they're the same instead of different individuals. Plus, it's so impractical and expensive, always buying 3 sets of the same clothes." And this is where everything went weird again. "What do you mean?" asks M. "You know, the triple stuff," I say. "Instead of dressing 3 kids with the same clothes, you'd just dress 1. "No," says M. "What do you mean by 3? They're twins, not triplets." We get into a huge argument. A and I are sure M is messing with us, while M claims we're the ones messing with him. He ends up calling his friend, who assures us she only has the one sister, while side-eyeing A and I, because who the hell are these strangers claiming to know more about her family than she does? We never figured out who or what the third girl was, nor which of them was the fake twin. Case file number 1620, written by Special Stage on Edge. When the sky ripped open. This actually did happen. This is not fiction. I still find myself reluctant to tell what I saw. It is something that I have never told a stranger, and I have never heard of anyone else who has experienced anything close, and it is nonsensical. The incident happened on a clear summer day in Northern California in the late 90s, not far from Travis Air Force Base. A friend of mine wanted to see some car rims that another friend was selling. He lived 1 street away, so I went with my friend. There was a group of guys talking about the rims. Since I wasn't interested in the haggling, I walked to the edge of the driveway to wait. Another guy who I was acquainted with from the group walked over with me. We were looking at a small prop plane that was flying several miles away. There wasn't a cloud in the sky when a part of the sky started to glitch and warp like it was shorting out. It was massive in size. From the center of the glitch, a cloud-like structure started to form from nothing. It began to swirl horizontally with the bottom facing us. It started to grow in size like a sideways tornado. It grew larger and larger. We both looked at each other, and he said, "What the hell is happening?" It started to feel out of place. Nothing was registering that this could happen. My known reality was being shattered. We were transfixed by it. As we kept watching, another part of the sky began to glitch to the upper right a lot further away. It looked like a huge piece of the fabric of space was trying to rip open right in front of us. A long vertical line materialized. In an instant, it was open. It was massive in size. It looked like a parallel universe had been opened. You could see the edge of this world and the difference past the opening, but I can't describe it. There was a huge void on the other side. We were peering past the curtain. It was as if looking into another dimension. This is where it doesn't make sense, like any of the others. A huge battleship slowly appeared in the void on the other side of the tear, as if uncloaking. It was floating in nothing. It was larger than any ship on Earth, but looked man-made. The ship had more levels than any ship I've seen, turrets and weapons. It was gray with no markings whatsoever. It looked like a ghost ship, something the Navy might have built, but couldn't. I was able to look at the different areas of the ship. I didn't see any signs of life. It hovered there for what seemed like 10 minutes. I got the feeling we weren't supposed to see this. Then the opening slammed shut in an instant. Everything was back to normal. The sky returned as it was before, as if nothing ever happened. I looked at my friend and said, "Did that just happen?" He nodded his head, yes. He was so freaked out, as I was. He then had to leave with his friends. I kept wondering what to do now. How do I process this? Who can I tell? What difference would it make? Would anyone believe me? Several days later, I wanted to talk to him about it, and he said, "Nope, I don't want to talk about it. We have never discussed it to this day. It left me questioning my reality. It happened, and I don't know what happened. Many people have seen flying objects, but not this. It has left me perplexed and alone. I've always wondered if that prop plane saw it. Nothing was ever reported. More people should have seen it. Was it some type of Philadelphia experiment? The ship USS Eldridge looks nothing like what I saw. What's the closest explanation that I can come up with? Teleportation experiment that went wrong? It didn't look like any type of alien ship, and it also didn't look like anything humans could build. I don't think I will ever know what it was. I'm no expert on these types of experiences. Does anyone have any idea what it might have been? Has anyone else heard or seen anything similar? Case file number 1621, written by Adventurous Leg 7471, The Dancing Streetlights. I lived on a street, and about 80 meters from me a very old Church of England. It's in the Domesday Book, and I was looking out the front window, and in front of the entrance to the church was a streetlight that had an orange glow, and it was surrounded by a big oak tree. Lovely place. But what happened was, I saw this streetlight move. It moved so much that it hit some branches, and the tree branches was waffling about, and the whole tree canopy moved. The pole moved that much that it looked like it had been toppled and pushed over. It was that dramatic. I shouted to Mum, "Mum, some naughty kids are pushing the streetlight over." I saw all the pole and the top of the streetlight move in its arc to nearly the floor, then straight back up and again to the same place. Granted, I couldn't see the ground level as there was a hedge, a thick enough hedge that you couldn't see if anyone was there or not. But naughty kids pushing it over was the only likely conclusion. So I went to get my shoes on, and we went to take a look at what damage these naughty kids had done. Naughty bloody kids, we was saying as we walked. We walked the 80 meters or so to the streetlight. We get there, and there's no sign of any damage. The streetlight was firmly cemented into the ground. No sign of any disturbance around the base. We even tried to wobble and push it ourselves, and it wouldn't even wobble in the slightest. It was solid. There's no chance kids or an adult could have moved it. It still haunts me to this day. I know what we saw. Case file number 1622, written by Tolerable Intolerance, The Mountain Guardian. When I was a kid, I went to a summer camp, the same as most kids my age at the time. This particular camp allowed you to stay for multiple sessions. So one year I asked my parents if I could do 2 sessions that year. They agreed. Between sessions, you had a weekend where you mostly got to do random activities, with the other kids that stayed between also. This camp happened to be in the old, otherwise unused mountain campus at a college, near where I lived, and there was an old house on a mountain that the person who founded the college used to live in. This particular weekend, we decided we would go up to the mountain to see the house. We had fun seeing the house, and then it started looking like it might storm. So we started back down the mountain. About halfway down, it started raining, and next thing we know, this car comes down the mountain road behind us. Oddly, I never heard the engine running, and there had been no cars up at the mountain house, and there was literally no one else up there, and the man inside offered us a ride down. When we got to the bottom, he let us out, and we started discussing where we were going to go to wait out the storm, since most of the buildings at the camp were closed during this time frame. We had been standing in the middle of the road, and one of the kids said, "Maybe we should get out of the road so this guy can pass." Then we looked back to where the car had been, and there was nothing there. We never heard a car drive off up the hill or anything, and he could never have slipped past us because it was a 1-lane dirt road with big ditches on either side. Later, a tornado actually set down and went right up that mountain straight through the road we had been going down, and would have been probably in our path right when we would have been walking down the last bit of the road before getting down the mountain. That crap bothered us quite a bit. We found out later no one had checked into the campus during that time, and no car matching the car's description had gone on the campus grounds that day either. It was a closed campus, though a few people actually did live back there. None of them matched the guy's description, nor had the same car. Case file number 1623, written by Unbelievable 27, When Reality Bends Around a Mysterious Rug. Did I slip into a different dimension involving a rug? 2 weeks ago, my daughter and I went to her favorite store. She found a black round fluffy rug with a white pentagram on it. There was only one, it was in the new to store section, and there weren't any similar rugs. I said that it was pretty cool and would look great in her room, so we'd think about getting it another day, and we left. 3 to 4 days later, my daughter remembered she had a gift card she got for Christmas and asked to go back so she could buy the rug. We go to the store, but the rug is gone. We asked someone working there, and I described the rug. They said they had sold out, but another store had one. She was checking the computer as we spoke. I was going to be near that store that week, so they rang it and asked them to hold it for me. All of this I remember distinctly, including them calling the other store and asking about this rug. Today I went to pick it up. They bring out a black rug, but it has a kitty moon and a star on it. I say, "No, this is the wrong one." Long story short, the person serving me accuses me of lying about this rug being different to what I had put on hold. He then tries to gaslight me, saying the pentagram rug had never existed. He literally says he's never seen it, so it didn't exist. I asked why he was accusing me of lying about a rug of all things, and that clearly someone had just made a mistake. They'd put the wrong one on hold, and now this store was sold out of the one I wanted. But no, this guy again says I'm lying, that this is the rug I'd asked to be held for me. Again, he says that the rug I was talking about didn't exist, had never existed. By this stage, I was getting pretty weirded out by his behavior, and asked for the manager. I explained to her that I wasn't so much angry about the mistake with the rug, but being accused of lying, then being told that this rug didn't exist. She says she remembers that rug, and they have sold it in the past, but doesn't remember having anything like it in stock recently. And here's where it gets weird. I pick my daughter up from school, and she asks if I got the rug. I start to explain that they didn't have the pentagram rug, but only one with a kitty on it. And she says, "Yes, that's the one I wanted." I ask about the pentagram rug. She has no recollection of it. I ask what the kitty rug looked like, and she describes it exactly. She remembers being in the store, and there only being one rug, but it was the kitty one. She even remembers me saying that the rug was pretty cool, except I'd never seen that rug before today, and I hated it. I never would have said it was cool or looked good in her room. I distinctly remember the pentagram rug, and that it was the only one in the store. Not only that, but the kitty rug is old stock and currently selling at half price, whereas the one I remember was in the new section. The whole past week in my life has felt odd, almost like the Twilight Zone, and now this weird glitch occurring over a rug. There is no way I saw a kitty rug. My memory is so clear on this. Caisson sur file 1611. The London Step through Spacetime. The question to ask in situations like this is, was the man even real? Was he a conjuration of your own mind? Was he a figment, an imprint from a different universe? Or was he just reset back in spacetime? There was a story I recall a little while back, maybe a year actually, damn, time passes fast, where this man was going on his evening walk in his local neighborhood. It was residential, not commercial, just walking on the sidewalk. And he was taking step by step, and as he described it, in one of those steps, he simply stepped into his dining room where he was seated and eating dinner. And from his perspective, it was literally seamless. There was no skip, there was no blink out of existence. It was just like that. Now, there are theories that are medical related, but in those cases, he wouldn't have functioned normally to the extent of having conversations with his wife and child. So what caused the memory block? And that is what really excites my imagination. When it comes to these events where people are ported around the world or reset in some form, what is it like from their perspective? Is it always like a memory wipe? They don't remember anything? Maybe. Probably in reality, you just take one step and you're in a different place, a different spot in time. And having lived through it all, somehow the puzzle pieces of reality fall into place to make that fit. Maybe a new universe entirely, but not really related to quantum immortality. I mean, space-time portals, maybe they connect to different universes too. It doesn't have to be limited to this universe, we know that. The multiverse is reality. I mean, as far as I can tell, that is the greatest approximation of reality, at least on the base layer. There isn't just one universe, which kind of breaks the meaning of the word universe, which means everything there could possibly be. Everything there could possibly be within a certain region of space-time, or even empty, complete oblivion space. Like the multiverse ocean, there's nothing there. It's a pure void, not even time. So separate those, and that's how you get different universes. In the great multiverse ocean. Caisson sur file 1612. My border collie? A veritable Houdini. You are not losing your mind at all. We had a similar story to this not long ago, couple months, where, and I just love when stories interconnect like this, like puzzle pieces in the universe. One more piece, Eventually, we get the full picture. Although it might take a million pieces, I don't know. We'll get there as long as I can achieve immortality. I'm working on it. So the person was walking the dog at night in like this enclosed tennis court or something like that. And they were walking the dog. He was on his harness as well. One moment they were walking, the next moment the harness is off, nowhere to be seen, and eventually found outside of the enclosed area. There is no possible way the dog detached his harness, brought it outside, then came back inside in the blink of an eye. And that is more extreme than your case, because the harness was in a place it couldn't possibly have been in. And yet still, this is a blink of an eye situation where the harness couldn't possibly have come off, you would feel it being tugged on. And I know for Mr. Ben, my German Shepherd, he's the same way. He has a harness. If he wants to pull it off, he has to face me and back away, basically, like reversing a truck. And that even then, it still takes a lot of tugging. Impossible for that to happen if it's as snug as Mr. Ben's without you realizing. And it would take longer than a second. And you know, in the Matrix, the sign that something was changed or altered is a déjà vu moment, where something repeats right after the next. Maybe our sign is momentary blinks out of existence, where absent memory is described as the sun blinking out or sound fading, and these events are described as taking place in a half a second, split second, 2 seconds at most, the time it takes for the server to reconnect and take hold of the processing units. But maybe the simulation masters, the dungeon masters, are making a deliberate change, and it overloads the servers. Personally, I think it's literally just an error in the real world of those server clusters, the computers there processing things. It doesn't happen too frequently, but when it does happen, this is what you get. It kind of blink, a longer blink than should be. You know, your blinks are so fast that you don't even realize they're happening most of the time. But then this definitely goes beyond a blink. It is a total system collapse for a very small period of time. Case notes of file 1613, about my sister's soul. Good old wholesome astral projection. But can we all astrally project? I think that is the most pertinent question. And I do think so, at least in theory. We all have a soul, and to astrally project is simply to decouple a part of it at least. But there does appear to be a mental component required to achieve this. A way that your mind is attuned to your soul's frequency, to resonate enough with it, to send it out into the material world. Almost like disengaging the magnetic confinement of antimatter, or any kind of matter. It is a field you can't directly observe, and we have no way to directly test it right now. But if it's anything like magnetic fields, they take a lot of energy to change or alter. And so yeah, does this ability stem from some random genetic mutation? Now time for the quote of the day. Every day I remind myself that my inner and outer life are based on the labors of other men, living and dead, and that I must exert myself in order to give in the same measures I have received and am still receiving. Albert Einstein. I think this quote is expanding on the statement of, I stand on the shoulders of giants. And yeah, in industry and science, that's all true. But even in the mundane world, everything your ancestors did, to the point where they died, mattered to your life. Your story couldn't have happened otherwise. From the lowly janitor all the way to the greatest scientist, everyone contributed, and you are contributing right now. So never feel unimportant. Your life matters. Case notes of file 1614. I know the future, I know death. That ending, whoa. To bear witness in a vision where other visions have come true of your own death. Well, maybe of your own death. But maybe you can use this to your advantage. Now you know what to look for, and hopefully when the time comes, you can swerve out of the way, unless you're in the passenger seat. But let's not go there. I'll just say you have an incredible ability, and I know you'll find a way to live a long life. If you like watching reaction content to shows someone has never seen before, then check out my second channel, link in the description. Now onto the notes. Case file number 1615. The Freckle that collapsed my mind. That is one of the more unsettling aspects of quantum immortality, where even if you know about quantum immortality, or you suspect it's real, you're shifting timelines, realities, in the multiverse ocean, well yeah, okay, cool, you're still alive, but you're in a different place. It doesn't quite feel like home. And then you have to question just how real are the people that you love, your friends, your family, your wife. Is she still the same person? Yeah, to an extent, but a lot of who we are is shaped by our past events. So if those events are different, even slightly, it can absolutely have an impact on our personality. Even if every copy of us shares the same soul, and they're connected in some way, the personality will still be different. It'll still be grounded in the soul. The soul has the greatest influence, I think. You know this from people experiencing the same thing in their life path and yet turning out differently, because the soul still matters. But those events influence, no doubt about it. So yeah, it's not unusual and it's not wrong to feel like something isn't right. Because, at least for you, it'll take a while to get used to the new wife. I do believe you fell in love with her soul, so don't fret. You'll fall in love with her new personality, even if it's slightly different. Case notes file 1616. The Girl with Two Names. Another case of quantum immortality, I suspect. I just wish it wasn't so disconcerting for people not in the know, or even people in the know. Because no matter what theories we have, we're gonna start doubting our own mind, our own senses. If one event is simply different in your current reality than your own brain tells you it should be. Yeah, you have a theory that fits quantum immortality, but it's still weird. And a name change is a huge difference. Because just think about how much a name will impact your life, how people will treat you in school, how other people, strangers, will treat you. There's no doubt about it, a name has a massive impact on a person's life. It's actually kind of crazy when you think about it. So if you have children, try to really think hard about that name, because it does matter. And I mean really, there's simple examples like Joey. Joey's your buddy, Joey's your pal. This was a Friends episode skit, where Chandler was, maybe not the strongest name, but still, Chandler would be, I think, friendly. And I don't mean to say that a name defines your fate or anything like that, but it will certainly influence you, because you're going to be treated differently based on the name, to a certain extent. My name, Paul, I guess it's a softer name, I think, but still positive. I think it's helped me develop a personality that is not malicious, you could say. Not many Pauls are going to be tyrants, I would suspect. Case notes are file 1617. My entire life was fake. The most frequent question you must ask yourself all the time is, was any of it real? Was all of it real? Another true life? Maybe, and this is my biggest theory, it was real. And it was memories leaking into your subconscious while you were dreaming of a real life that you had, a real experience, you could say, from the simulation. So we live, we die, we wake up in the real world, and maybe in the real world it took only an afternoon and we just jump back in. Or maybe it took an hour. It's all back to that Inner Light TNG episode, which is fantastic. And yeah, sure, the mind can process things faster than we can imagine. And if you can interface with it and load a specific program and then suppress memories, well, that takes a lot of doing. But if you could do all that, yeah, could all be a simulation, and we chose a specific scenario. Maybe we chose, for people that are struggling. Maybe they wanted that. Maybe they wanted that hard, brutal experience. And I can believe that. I mean, right now, I'm attracted to games that are very difficult and brutal. And who's to say, maybe in the real world, we're a trillion, quadrillion years into reality, and we're just bored. So we want to experience new things, novel things, even if they're painful. To me, that is one theory that really helps to alleviate the suffering that a lot of people go through in life. To just know that, well, this isn't the end, and to an extent you chose it. Now, just to be clear, this is just a theory. I don't know for sure. It's one that I gravitate very strongly towards. But no matter the theory, the emotions we experience in this reality, simulation or otherwise, are so profound. Well, something like this, if it happened to me, no matter my theories, it would be a gut punch and something that I would cry and sob just like you, no doubt about it. Now, time for the joke of the day. A man walks into a library and orders fish and chips. The librarian says, "This is a library." The man says, "Oh, sorry, I'd like some fish and chips." Yes, just say it in a whisper. That's all that the librarian meant. Imagine if libraries offered food. That is appealing to me because food is everything. Probably wouldn't work because the library is so quiet, you would hear everyone masticate, and you don't want that. The constant mouth noises, I go through great pains to make sure I filter out as much of those as I can in the recording because it's not fun to listen to. No one wants to hear someone eat. No. Actually, no. Some people actually do. It's like ASMR or something. People like listening to people eat. Some people. A small subset of really weird people. I can't connect with that at all. Case also file 1618. The Matrix Ignited. Now this is an interesting twist. The idea that the real world, we are in a simulation, but it's not just for fun. It's to occupy our minds in an interstellar voyage across the galaxy. That is so sci-fi and awesome. Now I wouldn't say just from this one story it's concrete evidence or certain proof, no. But it is very interesting, and it's definitely something I kind of enjoy because, waking up and realizing, yeah, okay, this is our life. I'm like the captain of a ship traveling to a new star system. It really appeals to the Star Trek nerd in me to just go out there and explore. I mean, it is the final frontier as far as we know. And it would make certain sense if we do develop, or we did in the real world, cryonics or stasis, but it only preserves the body, and the mind is still active. You don't want to just be sitting there, yeah, preserved, but you'd go insane over hundreds of years, just staring at the pod. So you need some way to entertain your mind, keep it occupied. Case notes of file 1619. The Cafe Triplets. For sure, this is an odd glitch to place. Okay, there's twins, they look identical, that's simple enough. Then you get this extra person that is identical. Is it a doppelganger of a twin? I mean, I guess that makes sense. Even twins would have doppelgangers, right? And if we're going with a doppelganger that is instilling of fear, not just a genetic random copycat. It didn't seem to invoke that, so maybe it is just a really weird fluke. But why would they be in the same location like that? It just seems wearing the same clothes. Clearly that was calculated. I'm honestly not sure. I mean, I suppose it's a doppelganger event. But I suspect that isn't the full story. There's something else too going on. Now time for the joke of the day. Dr. Frankenstein entered a bodybuilding contest. Upon arrival, he realized he misunderstood the objective. Yes, because Dr. Frankenstein built the great monster. And I mean, if you think about it, that is bodybuilding. He literally constructed a body. Not the kind of bodybuilding we're used to, though. You need a lot of steroids for that one. Case also file 1620. When the Sky Ripped Open. The Philadelphia experiment is so interesting because of the position that the person who promulgated it, Carl Allen, if I recall, he was a merchant mariner. It's not a nothing position, right? Though a lot of people have tried to debunk his claims, and even Carl Allen himself later on said that it was mostly a hoax. Thing is, if this really happened, and the government didn't want it to be accepted as fact, well, there are ways to compel a later recanting. So, I don't know. Maybe it was all a hoax, a prank at large, possible. Or maybe the government just wanted it quieted, and the whole thing to go away. Either way, without having been there ourselves, we can't know if this was some invisibility test, teleportation, whatever it may be, or just a prank. So we'll never know what happened on the USS Eldridge, but we have so many accounts of stories similar to this, where things appear in the sky, anomalies in the sky, or on the ground, space-time portals. They're all over the place, and they happen all the time. There's enough accounts to me that even if one story from the past wasn't true, or validated, that's okay. There's enough now that, are they all fake? I don't think so. That would be weird. And given how you describe this, remember, space-time portals, anomalies, the time interval is there. Can be a mixture of both space and time. To what you describe the ship as, not being alien, but also not really what we could build now, so a ship from the future. That makes sense to me, and maybe it was even a spaceship, which would explain how it was flying, because space-time portals don't impart any kind of anti-gravity effect as far as we know. You just pop out to a different location in space and time, and normal physics apply then. So in that case, yeah, it must have been a spaceship, maybe in construction, but still had the anti-gravity or whatever propulsion system it uses intact and functioning. Case notes file 1621. The Dancing Streetlights. It's not the spoon that bends, but you. I just love that line. In this case, it's not the pole that bends with a cement foundation, it's you, the person observing it. Everything that's happening is all inputs into your brain by a computer, not real. So that principle taken at large. And is that indeed the simplest explanation? The cement pole never moved, it bent because your mind saw it that way. Maybe influenced by something else, someone else, but the reality as we experience it isn't concrete. Unlike the pole. Now time for the quote of the day. The word politics is derived from the word poly, meaning many, and the word ticks, meaning blood-sucking parasites. Larry Hardman. Yeah, I don't have to add too much to this one. Many ticks indeed. I guess at this point it's more like a vampire. The only question is, how the hell do we get it off our necks? Big question. Case note for file 1622. The Mountain Guardian. To me, not hearing an engine is the biggest tell that this car wasn't real. It was a manifestation of some sort. Maybe just interfacing in your minds, it wasn't real, so as to speak in the simulation or the real world. The man might have even just been a conjured NPC, for all we know. Some kind of dungeon master intervention, guardian angel, saving? Because indeed, if you weren't saved, you would have been in the path of the tornado, which don't want to be. It's not like the movie where you can just tie a belt around yourself and you're A-okay. No. Even though Twister is an awesome movie. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. Perfect classic. Oh yeah. Anywho, the other possibility is this was a sort of space-time portal, but in a different universe. One where electric vehicles were more prominent. Earlier in time than us. So in the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s, they were everywhere. Or ubiquitous. One way or another, you have to explain the lack of engine noise, and I guess either fit. I do prefer the guardian angel intervention because it is fun to think that something is looking out for you. Case notes for file 1623. When reality bends around a mysterious rug, it's a conflict in quantum immortality. And the daughter is confirmation of that, because she said, yeah, this is the rug I wanted, even though you know it wasn't. So in your reality, she wanted the pentagram. Kind of a big shift. I mean, pentagram to kittens. But I guess it's what they had at the store in the other universe. And yeah, I know this and now you know it, but it still must be incredibly jarring to experience because then you ask yourself, is this really my daughter? Is this really my husband? Are these my friends? The people I know? Do they have the same soul? I can't say for sure, but I think so. I think there's just one soul for each of us, but cut up in different pieces, but still linked together. So almost like a chain link fence or maybe a sausage. I don't know why I made a comparison to sausages. I don't think souls are sausages, but you get the idea. It's one, but linked together, even though there's a slight separation. And the life experiences of each person that is different in each universe will impact their personalities, but internal, their soul, still is the same. Have you ever had that where someone that you know deeply changes a bit in their personality? Not speaking from quantum immortality, just a normal change, weird change maybe. But you still love them anyways. You still want to be around them because you know deep down it's still them, more than the sum of their parts. Now time for the quote of the day. Politics is supposed to be the second oldest profession. I have come to realize that it bears a very close resemblance to the first. Ronald Reagan. Pretty much you're selling your soul and your body, your mind, everything for the coin, the almighty dollar. The unfortunate thing is you're not just selling yourself, you're selling everyone else, all your constituents. And if you don't know what the oldest profession was, the first one, you're too innocent and that's good. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.